Salak Akim. All right. Shalom Akim. All right. Sahab, Spirit Wind, Judah. That's Mississippi Camp. Giving all honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, by Sabi Habashai, by Shema Kakodash. I also want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, rule well, and peace and blessings to the house of David the elect. And I just want to say, I want to go into a live stream. Shalom to you brothers and sisters who are tuning in. I want to go into a live stream going into the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern diet. And there's a reason why I said the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern diet, because, all right, really the whole region has food that's more suitable for the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. All right, when I do these lessons, they're specifically for the elect, the hopefully elect of the nation of Israel. And I don't do these lessons for anybody outside of our nation. All right, we're very it's about ethnocentricity. All right, I'm proud of the nation that I came from, and I'm excited about the restoration of our people, man. All right, so I don't care who else watches these videos outside of the hopefully elect. I could care less. All right, but if you happen to be watching it, hey, enjoy. But anyway, moving along. All right, excuse me. I want to go into this live stream. All right, going into the Mediterranean diet as well as the Middle Eastern diet, because if you go into our history, and as I did a lesson, I want to say last week about historical context and understand context within the scriptures, and you study the culture, all right, and the customs of our people, meaning the so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Native Americans, all right, biblically known as, the southern and the northern kingdom of the nation of Israel, all right, our custom was more reflective of that of a Middle Eastern diet or a Mediterranean diet. So what is a Mediterranean diet? What does it consist of? Well, just how you have the American food pyramid, all right, with this, bread at the bottom, then the certain portions, all right. Well, the Mediterranean diet, all right, with respect to the dietary law, all right, it consists of pasta and bread at the bottom, which is the base. Then it goes into the plant base, the plants, the fruits, the vegetables, the legumes, and then it goes up to fish, which fish have they're known for the omega-3. All right, and they're real fatty, which is good, all right, for the body, all right. The sardines, the mackerel, the tuna, all right, the salmon, which one of the key fish for the Mediterranean diet is the salmon. But the reason why I'm bringing this out, because, we're all about the restoration of our people, all right, and it's the time we're in. We are in the time of the restoration. So the Most High is raising us back up to our old estate, all right, and what that entails, us following the customs, all right, of our fathers, all right, to the best of our ability, okay? And like I said, going into the culture, all right, part of our culture was that when it came to the diet, it was more reflective of the dietary law. Because when you wake up to this truth, what happens is you find out that you can't eat bacon, you can't eat the swine, you can't eat catfish, but then a lot of times we'll still eat the standard American diet, just respecting the dietary law. And that's still not what the Most High, he didn't intend for us, he didn't intend that for us either, you see? And if a brother eats Burger King, you can't kick him out of your camp. But the Most High, he has a system to sustain our bodies, even in captivity. All right, so now as time goes on, he's revealed to his people, all right, what's more suitable, all right, for his body, for their bodies, all right? So things is more related to our way, all right, is the Mediterranean diet, is the Middle Eastern diet, all right? And the reason why I say Middle Eastern, because you got people like Elam who are situated in Iran, I want to say Pakistan, all right? They have their way going back to going as far as the east, all right, India, all right? And you have something called Indian food. But if you go to those restaurants, all right, where they serve Indian food, all right, most of that is suitable for the nation of Israel, meaning you don't have to nitpick and ask them what's in that, They may have shrimp, but for the most part, it's straight, most of it is vegetables and it's curry, all right, and it's It's their probably goat meat, things of that nature, man. All right. Some of the best restaurants I've gone to were probably Mediterranean and Middle Eastern restaurants, which is my personal opinion anyway. All right. So like I said, the reason why I'm doing this lesson, because it's all about context. You learn the dietary law, but did we eat Burger King in our homeland? Okay. Did we eat Taco Bell in our homeland? Okay. Now, is that to say that you're going to go 100% not eating BS? I'm not saying that. But what's our day-to-day customs, man? All right? How can we eat this more reflective of the ways of our forefathers and also healthier for these tabernacles, man, for these bodies? Okay? So I was going into some of the benefits of the Mediterranean diet, all right, in which you can look it up yourself. But it basically lowers cholesterol, it lowers the risk of cancer, it lowers the risk of diabetes, it lowers the risk of heart disease, all right, because you're basically eating from something called the Mediterranean triad, all right. You're eating a lot of oils instead of using vegetable oils, all right, instead of using oils that cause saturated fat or build saturated fat, or oils that cause trans fat, which are basically plaque or mucus or fat that clogs up your arteries, all right, which causes a negative ripple effect to thin out your blood flow, which decreases your oxygen flow throughout the body, all right. You're taking olive oils, all right, which I believe that's a monounsaturated fat, all right, so it doesn't solidify in your body. In short, man, it doesn't solidify in your body. That's what you want. You want oils that doesn't get hard in your arteries, okay? That doesn't cause blood clot, which will cause a heart attack. That doesn't cause high blood pressure, okay? So, like I said, and I mentioned the Mediterranean triad, which is part of our culture, was that we had olives within our diet. The Mediterranean triad goes back to 3. And those 3 staples that we consume daily was things that came from olives, such as olive oil, all right, grains such as bread, and grapes such as wine. So that was part of our daily staple, okay? All right, the Mediterranean triad, all right? And also, there's a website on Wikipedia. There's a site on Wikipedia called the Israelite Cuisine. It went into the history of the Hebrew diet, all right? Because technically we're Middle Eastern, okay? And it went into how it was mostly plant-based, all right? It was mostly plant-based, and a lot of the things that we ate very frequently was fish, because if you look at our surroundings where we were culturally, we were around the different seas, all right? It was around a water region, all right? What you call the Sea of Galilee, all right? And when you're around a culture that's around water, then you're gonna always have access to fish. So one of the things that was very common within our culture, all right, was fish. So along with a lot of the fruits and the vegetables and the legumes, all right, the bread, the olives, the wine, we had something in excess, and that was fish, okay? So one of the main staples within our diet, which is the Middle Eastern diet, all right, is fish, okay? Then we had we had our goats and we had our lamb. But oftentimes the goat and the lamb produce what? Butter and milk. So one of the things that was a byproduct of the goat and lamb was butter and milk. So although we did consume goat and lamb, one of the main key uses for them was what? Butter and milk. So still the main staple was mostly fish. Then moving beyond that, you also had cows, all right? So like according to the scripture, you can't eat the cows. Now, based on this article I read, now, some would disagree, but based on this article I read and based on the different sources, all right, that because cows was more taxing to the economy to pasture, you ate that less frequently. And when you ate meat, red meat, that's something that you ate more around feast days. Like I said, some brothers have a different viewpoint, but I read a lot of articles about this. So when it came to things like red meat, all right, you ate less frequently. But it also mentioned within this article, Israelite Cuisine, all right, that people who are part of the royal status, they ate the red meat every day, all right, because they could afford to eat red meat every day, all right? Real red meat is expensive. I'm not talking about the $2 pack from Walmart, the $2 pack of ground beef. All right, when you buy grass-fed, grass-finished beef, it's expensive. When you buy a rack of lamb rims, a rack of lamb, all right, that is expensive. So that's why the people who ate it more frequently were people who had more money, all right? So they're just giving a dietary context of how we moved in our homeland, all right? So like I said, going back to the Middle Eastern way, all right? You got your grains, all right? Which is, we ate a lot of bread, you know, whole bread, not that processed stuff they sell on the shelf. Bread that was fresh out the oven, man. Bread is different when it's fresh out the oven. Bread is different when it's drizzled in olive oil. You might eat it with honey, all right? It's a different experience, you see? But bread was a big part of our staple. That's why it's mentioned so many times in the scriptures, okay? Another key thing with the Mediterranean diet is moderation, okay? And this moderation, so we weren't full of gluttony, all right, within our culture. All right, gluttony was really against our culture, man, all right? So in a lot of cultures that's a part of the Mediterranean, all right, they serve a lot of the dishes, something called mesa, or mess. I think that's how you pronounce it, M-E-Z-Z-E, and it's basically a small dish. So a lot of the portions that, you know, people eat within those regions, all right, they're in small dishes, man. Okay, and something that I've noticed about bread, that's like a meat substitute, you know? Bread can fill you up, all right? So you have bread, you might have your vegetables and your fruit. You really don't need a lot of meat, you know? Like I said, you know, you have different, like, viewpoints, but most articles, most research goes back to the same thing, you know? It's about availability, all right, and affordability, all right? So, like I said, once you get past the bread, then you go to the fruit, vegetables, and legumes, all right? But then you move to the fish, which is a main staple in those regions, man, okay? So these things, oh, another thing, processed food. One of the things that's brought to a minimum, all right, in the Mediterranean way is processed food. We didn't have processed food in the homeland. See, a lot of things, all right, it's not evil to consume. Like Esau pushed the narrative that meat was evil, but he overlooked the concept of processed food, man. All right? Because what's the point of going on a plant-based diet, but you still eating processed everything else, man? All right? Your body wasn't meant to consume additives and extra sugars, man. All right, processed sugars, man. All right? That's what E is not telling you. Okay? So one of the key things within the Mediterranean diet, all right, is minimizing, make an effort to eliminate processed food. All right, like I said, you might go to a dinner or you might be invited to a feast. Somebody serves some cake. Well, you eat the cake because you're not doing that every day. But processed food shouldn't be a part of a Hebrew staple, man. Okay? So we got moderation, which is a part of the Mediterranean way and the Middle Eastern way. We have the elimination of processed food, all right? Or minimizing the processed food, because you got to be realistic. All right, minimizing processed food. All right, you drink wine, all right, on a daily, 1 or 2 servings of wine every day, which wine is basically a natural de-stressor, and it adds years to your life. Now, if you are a brother and a sister who just doesn't drink, period, that's okay. All right, with the exception of the Passover, of course. Okay, so you have moderation, the elimination of processed food, right? You drink wine on a daily. You eat your olives or your olive oil. All right, your bread, which is another staple. All right, and another thing is an active lifestyle, because truth be told about bread, all right, although whole bread is healthy, you know, whole grains are healthy, all right, it still can it's still a form of carbs. So carbs is an energy source. So one of the things that's noted within the Mediterranean Middle Eastern way is being active. So it'll behoove you, all right, to have some type of active daily pattern about yourself. You know, an active daily pattern that keeps your heart pumping, keep you sweating, things of that nature, all right? So that's another thing that's noted within the Mediterranean way. And the reason why I'm doing Mediterranean, all right, because I believe it's pretty much close to how we ate in our homeland, Jerusalem. The scripture says we know in part and we prophesy in part. But for the most part, if you look at certain scriptural evidence, all right, you could kind of confer that it was pretty much on a Mediterranean type diet. You know, Yahweh Shai, he dispersed fish, all All right, he multiplied fish. All right, Yahweh Shai, all right, turned the water into wine. All right, we had olive trees were mentioned, you know. Bread was mentioned all throughout the scriptures. So you can put two and two together. You can pretty much confer, all right, or infer that what? We were pretty much on a Mediterranean type diet, man. Okay? Even when, oh yeah, I can't forget quail. Quail was another thing within our diet. And then guess what? We had fried food, but we fried our food in what? Things like fine oil and fine flour, man. All right, that's very important. I grew up eating a low grade type of oil, man. See, when something is a part of your culture, you don't see the error in what you're doing. You see? I had bologna growing up. I had liver, cheese, and sauce from time to time, man. We didn't eat it a lot, but we still ate it. Not only was it swine, hey, that stuff was just, that wasn't meant for the human body. The human body was meant to consume whole food and not processed food, man. All right? One thing that can help you is look at the earth in its natural state. And look at the things that come from the earth in its natural state. All right? With respect to the dietary law, that's what you consume. All right? Was there a McDonald's? Does a McDonald's grow on its own? Like, no. Does a Twinkie, is there a Twinkie tree somewhere? No. So a lot of things you can just ask yourself, because a lot of brothers say, well, there's no law, no sin. That's true. But scriptures also say all things are profitable for all things are not, but all things are not expedient. So a lot of things you can ask yourself, okay, it's one thing to be clean, but another thing is that this come directly from the earth. Like I said, there's no Twinkie tree. Or there's no Cinnabon garden. Okay? So a lot of things that you look at, you got to ask yourself, does it come directly from the earth? Because guess what? Your body came directly from the earth. All right? And if it did come directly from the earth and it was manufactured and packaged from some facility, it's probably a detriment to your health, man. All right? Us Israelites, we're geared to have a nutrient-dense diet, which consists of a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, but we have our grains, all right, which is a good energy source, is a good staple, all right, good survival food as well. We also have our fish, all right. We also have our fish, man, that salmon, all right, that mackerel, that tuna, all right, those sardines. You know, a lot of those foods we grew up eating because it was cheap, but a lot of it was good. Some of the stuff we grew up eating was bad. Some of the stuff we grew up eating were good, all right. Like sardines, that's good food. Tuna, that's good, you know. I heard if you eat too much, it can be high in mercury, but just in general, that's good, you see. But fish was a big part of our way, man. And it's more than a diet, it's a way. We have a way within our heritage, man. All right? So, I mean, the key point, the key point, man, just going over some of the characteristics, all right, of the Mediterranean diet, all right, and bringing it back to the scriptures. There's a scripture in the book of Sirach tells you basically how to eat in moderation, all right, and surfeiting causes sickness. Well, surfeiting means to overdo. So part of our Middle Eastern way was moderation. Another way was being not excessive in meats, you know. So it's all about what? Moderation. Okay? An example of a good form of moderation, all right? I went to a certain restaurant in Texas called Majules. I think that's how you say it, or Unjules, okay? And basically, they had like a small plate. There was a side salad. Then there was another plate, I want to say with a little bread. Then the main dish, it had this vegetables and maybe some fruit. There was like one piece of chicken. But I would say about 80% was probably, you know, bread and vegetables, man, and fruit. Then it was the meat. But something that the elder Pastor Ramla brought out years ago, that 70% of the earth is water and about 30% is land. And about 70% of our diet is supposed to be, you know, basically alkaline or plant-based, and about 30% would be what you would say meat, all right, or things of substance, all right. So that would manifest itself, all right, in your plate being mostly what? Fruit, vegetables, bread, nuts, grains. But then you have your serving of fish, you know. And we're men. A lot of us are men. We eat more, but it's all about balance, you know. But I was making the effort to give a visual of what moderation would look like. So like I said, just going over a review, all right, with the Mediterranean diet. When you think of Mediterranean, the word Mediterranean goes back to middle land, all right, because it's basically water surrounded by land, right? That's the Mediterranean. And those lands that it is surrounded by are like Italy, Spain, France, you know, I want to say Portugal, all right? You got North Africa, you know, that's a part of that Mediterranean, all right? You got the Middle Eastern, talking about Iran and Turkey and all those other places, which pretty much have a similar diet. But when you think about the Mediterranean, you think about water. And what's in water? Fish. So that's another key thing in Mediterranean. Then you think about proportion, the size of the food. All right, or the size of the plate in which you serve the food, which is a plate is of moderate size. Then you think about freshness. So another thing to take heed to is that we got to make an effort to buy food fresh. So when we buy our fish, when we buy our meat, make sure that, you know, we can make these goals to make it more local, get it from a fresh market where they slaughter the fish on site, or they slaughter it in the back and they sell it that day or within that time frame, right? As opposed to being packaged with all type of preservatives, you know? So we think about, like I said, moderation, all right? We think about minimally processed. We think about freshness, all right? Maybe it's locally raised, or not locally raised. Maybe it's, you know, in the local market, all right? These are key things that's associated with buying, you know, eating in the Middle East or eating in the Mediterranean, you know? Wine, the olives, the bread, all right? Daily exercise to the best of our ability, you know? These are things that's a part of our way, not just pulling up at McDonald's saying no bacon, or pulling up at Checkers, hey, no, make sure there's no bacon now. Nah, it's beyond that. See, this truth is it's really about getting into character, man. And Judges 5:11, it said, in the land of drawn waters, we're going to rehearse the righteous act. Drawn waters represents servitude, represents slavery. But we rehearsing the righteous acts by rehearsing the laws, statutes, and commandments, and ultimately rehearsing the ways of our forefathers. But it's rehearsing. It's like you're acting, like role playing. But when you role play, you really get into character. Halle Berry, in one of her movies, all right, I think she was playing a prostitute. But for the movie, she actually hung around a certain prostitute to sort of learn how to get into character, absorb their spirit, and absorb their nature, man, their essence, to really get into her role, man. See, we're rehearsing the righteous acts, and we're getting into character. It's not about being basic no more. It's not about doing the bare minimum, man. If you want to draw close to your Yahushai, or if you want your Yahushai to draw close to you, you draw close to him. And part of drawing close to him is going back into the ways that he created for us in the first place. You know, when we get sick, you know, we get into our herbs, all right? Get into our herbs. We use our herbs in the form of teas. That's the Middle Eastern way too. Use our herbs in the form of teas, all right? Tinctures, which are liquid extracts. A lot of times the herbs are soaked in alcohol for weeks at a time, and then extract the medicinal properties from those herbs, all right, which makes it more potent in your body, all right? That's part of trusting him, man. You show your faith by your works, right? You show your trust by your action. All right, how do you react when you get sick? What do you eat when you get hungry, you know? You see? So, yeah, our diet, which is that Middle Eastern Mediterranean way, it is not one way, you know? It's different ways to do the Mediterranean. There's different countries that are a part of the Mediterranean. So your plate doesn't have to look like the next man's plate. But there are general things, all right, within the Mediterranean, all right, that's the same every time. And those are things that I kept naming: the fish, the bread, the fruits, the vegetables, the nuts, the legumes, all right? Meat and dairy, you know, more brought down to lesser, for lack of better words, okay? Doing everything high grade, getting the higher grade of something, the higher quality of something, versus the minimally processed, mass-produced version of it, you know? So, like I said, I hope this is edification to the brothers and sisters in this live stream, okay? So, like I said, the way we eat our herbs, brothers and sisters like their incense, they get into the oils, sisters making candles, all right, sisters making soaps, All right, brothers making candles, brothers making soaps. You know, we're Israelites. The Most High, the earth is our house, man. So you taking things from Yahweh Shai's house and you utilizing it to your benefit, as opposed to getting something from Esau's facility, man. All right, that's how you know we're coming back to our homeland. We're coming back to our heritage, man. Because it says in Deuteronomy 28, we're gonna serve our enemies for want of all things. But now we're transitioning, all right, and becoming aware of how we can utilize Yahweh Shai's earth for our sustenance, man. But I'm not going to continue to go on. I think I've pretty much made the point, and I hope that light was shed about the Mediterranean diet, the Middle Eastern diet. You know, how we can use it to, you know, benefit us in the land of our captivity. All right. So with that, I hope you brothers and sisters were edified. Once again, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakodash, double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops, the great millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the house of David the elect. All right, with that, Abba, Kamyasha Allah, and Shalom.